this is basically this whole talk's going to be about competitive stuff in general. So the stuff I'm going to be
User
talking about
joined
is
your
something that
channel.
you can imply
User
into
joined your
almost
channel.
any competitive aspect in almost any game, and not even in games. Like it could be even real life sports like basketball, baseball, anything like that. Anything that's a competitive scenario, this same type of stuff will go with that. So World v World, PvP, even some aspects of PvE, anything in a competitive nature where you're trying to boost yourself and go push yourself to a next level and learn and get better.
Cheat, right?
But let's see. Where's my notes? I have notes set up, so I'm going to keep myself in order because I do have a trouble where I tend to wander on
User
each
joined
topic.
your channel.
So I'm going to keep myself into each aspect of this thing, basically. But
User joined your channel.
let's see. Okay, I guess here's my notes. I got it already. Here we go. Everybody who just joined, also, this is recording everything, so it's going to be on YouTube. Just let everybody know. I'm going to probably say that a few more times as we keep going tonight. But I'm going to begin this whole thing, and we're finally going to start now, 12 minutes late. Normally anything I do is usually even more late than that. But we're going to begin the whole thing with a question. And the first question is why do you get mad
User
when you
disconnected
lose?
from your channel.
Or a better wording of that is, why do you get frustrated when you lose in any kind of competitive scenario? And one of the reasons I think you can get frustrated and mad and when you lose, and there's a lot of different reasons. You didn't meet your goal. You really wanted to win. You wanted to get the reward. You wanted to step your game up. There's a lot of different reasons you'd have some based fact on why you'd want to win. You always have that goal that you're going towards. But I think at a deeper level, sometimes the reasons you get frustrated when you lose is because you feel like, because I didn't beat this other team, now all of a sudden you're valued less. People are looking at you with a less level of hierarchy. They're looking down at you more. You've lost stature. You've lost your position. People are going to be looking down at you now that you're not worth as much. And this is something that I think affects a lot of people. And that's a main thing we're going to kind of talk about too, is that's really not true. And it's the type of thing, and I'm basing a lot of this off, and I'm going to get a little off topic just to talk a little about background. This is something, this whole talk is going to be based around something I put together from stuff that I've read, stuff that I've done in real life, people that I've talked to in real life. I've been on a PvP competitive team in Guild Wars 2, my experiences with that, and just formulating all this stuff together into this one kind of little
User
small
joined your
workshop
channel.
here. But the main thing to remember too is that, and I'm still trying to keep in line here, I'm going to kind of sporadically go off back and forth, but and again too, to remind that everything here is being recorded and going to be on YouTube. But the main thing to remember here is, when knowledge ends, frustration begins. So when you don't know, and this is another reason why you get mad, so this is tying into the same thing, why do you get frustrated when you lose, is because when knowledge ends, your frustration begins because you lost the game. And sometimes you know why you lost. Like you're like, oh man, if I'm going to use a PvP scenario here. Oh man, if that guy would have just went here and here, or if we would have had a better comp, or if we would have had a better player, we would have won that. Or if this guy wouldn't have left point and then it wouldn't have got decap, he would have won. Sometimes you know that. But I can tell you just from my experience, for me at least, when you lose a round and you just get totally stomped and clobbered, and you have no clue what you could have done to fix that round because you lost so bad, like 500 to 1 or 0, like then that's really when you just get really frustrated, because you're just like, you don't know how to make it better. You don't know how to fix the issue. And that can lead to a lot of frustration too, is because you don't know how to fix the problem. And then that's when frustration can really begin. And at the same time, even if you know why you lost, say you
User
lost that
left your
fight
channel.
because somebody on the team rotated the wrong direction or something, and you know that was the key reason why you lost. This is usually a very rare scenario. Most of the time there's a lot of big things that come into play to losing a rep match like that. But say for some example that happened. Then comes the frustration part is you don't know how to fix making sure that that player doesn't rotate like that again. And that's if it's like a pug team. But the key thing is if you're on, and I'm talking to like in coordinated groups really, especially this comes into then World v World, where you're going to be working with the same people over and over. In PvP, sometimes you'll just have pugs and stuff that you can try and explain to them how maybe you should have rotated this way or that way, but the odds are you're probably not going to be teamed up with them for a long time or even a good while, depending on the luck of the draw and whatnot. But the key
User joined
is
your channel.
that's what it's going to be based along is fixing the frustration that comes to that. And the main thing to remember, and this is hopping back to the other thing there, and I'm kind of bouncing around a bit, but stick with me here, is
User
that
joined your channel.
you're not a loser just because you lose a game or fight. That's the big thing. And that's hard, and that's a thing that I myself struggle with, because just to clarify, all the stuff I'm talking about right now is not something that I'm an expert at. Like I'm not going to say I don't get mad when we lose. I'm not going to say that a lot of the stuff I talk about sometimes I just don't bring into practice, because this is stuff that I'm still learning. This is things that I'm trying to get better at. So this is really kind of just all of us working together really, and just me sharing what my goal is and I'm trying to get better with. And we could all kind of do it as a group if we chose to. But for me, I always feel like I struggle with that feeling of if you lose, you're a loser. People are looking at me like, oh, I'm a loser now. I've lost the stature now. I'm not as good as I was. And you just feel like you've lost something. And that's the key, is you're not a loser just because you lost a game. There's always going to be a winner and there's always going to be a loser. That's how competitions are. And the way you have to look at it is, how would you feel if the other team lost? Would you be looking at them with less stature or less hierarchy? Or are you looking at them now as losers? It's definitely a thing to kind of keep in
User joined
mind,
your
is that you're
channel.
not a loser. And just because you lose does not mean people think less of you. That's another thing to remember. Just because you lose that fight or the game, people aren't going to think less of you. And here's the big thing. There are people that are going to think less of you if you lose. But if these people think less of you because you lose, then it's not worth worrying about it. These people are not worth the time of day of worrying about it. If somebody thinks less of you because you lost that fight or did something wrong and thinks you're not worthy to do whatever that is anymore, you don't need to listen to that. That's not the type of person you give the time of day to. Just that's their person who's probably frustrated and venting, and it's not true. That is absolutely not true. And that's a big key thing to remember. Here is the big turning point. And a lot of people, I myself, get very focused in a competitive environment on making sure it's winning. You're very focused on that winning prize. You have got to win. Got to win. And sometimes the need to want to win becomes stronger than the need and want to learn. Now, this is a big thing because it's very important, in my opinion, to focus more on learning, not winning. Because if you enter a game and your only focus is on winning, not learning, not keeping track of how did I feel like I could have done better? What did my mistakes do that game? After the game, looking back, are you going through each round and being more on what can I do to improve,
User
or
left your
on
channel.
did we win or did we not
User
win?
joined your channel.
Focusing more on did we win this round or did we not win this round? Instead of that, focusing more on what can I do to improve from what I did. Keep your focus on yourself more so and improving each round. Because here's the big thing. If you're only there to win and you lose, you got nothing. You literally got nothing. You were there only for winning and you lost and you didn't get your winning, so there was literally nothing there. You literally did get nothing. But if you're there to learn, and here's a perfect example. In the PvP community, there's a really good team called the Abjured. A lot of you have probably heard of them. And if you go to fight against the Abjured and you lose, which most people do, you could go in there feeling really bummed out that you didn't beat them, or you can go through there and imagine all the knowledge you could get from fighting that team. Because if you have any weakness in your team or anything to be exploited, they're going to do it. They're going to show you what you did wrong and what you can improve on. So if you go through focusing on what can you learn from that match, then all of a sudden, every single game you play, you get something out of it. Every single game you play, you get a little bit better. Every single game, you're a step higher up on the ladder to champion. That is a really big thing, is focusing on what are you learning and what is everybody else learning? What is the group learning? What is the team doing to improve on their mistakes? And that is a big, big mental switch that I got to be honest with you, I struggle with, because when we get stomped on games, like games that you just really want to win, I'll get frustrated and I'll just be like, oh man, I just really wanted to win. And I want to win so bad that I'll forget about all the mistakes that I did and just focus, just blindly grabbing, trying to get that winning victory that just did not
User joined
happen.
your
And then
channel.
by the end of the match, all you are is angry and you don't even recollect on why you lost. So keeping calm and keeping focused on that
User
learning
joined your
aspect is
channel.
extremely important. The other thing too is I'm going to switch a little bit, and this is a slightly different topic, but this is going to be talking a little bit now in communication. This has a lot to do with frustration in a match. If you're working with a team, communicating with your friends or fellow teammates in a match can determine your level of frustration a lot. So, if possible, talk to people about their mistakes after the game. Try not to do it during the game. And this is sometimes not possible. Sometimes you're just unable to talk to your friends and other teammates about this stuff if there's stuff going on and you just can't bring it up. Like
User joined your
sometimes I'm
channel.
getting a little kind of rotating off point here, but try not to bring up topics if you can during a high stress scenario. So this works in a lot of different environments. In commanding, if you see, and there's different scenarios for this. If you see some people squirreling off to the right and you know it's going to get them killed and wipe
User
you,
joined your
that's something
channel.
the commander usually is going to call out, guys, get back on tag, guys, get back on tag. You don't want to do that. But if it's something small, like in PvP, or somebody rotated, or not small, but something unfixable at the moment, someone rotated the wrong direction and already has overcommitted to that point, and even now, if you call them out on that and pull them back, they can't come back because they've already committed, and it'd be even worse if they came back. Don't bring that up to them there then. Don't just say, wait, why are you going over there? Hold it. What? Oh well, fine, you messed up there. It'll always sound worse trying to correct someone's mistakes in a match because you're going to be stressed. It's a high anxiety scenario. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's always going to sound worse if you do that there. And that's basically the thing there, is to remember, try to, if you
User
can,
disconnected
bring
from your
these stuff
channel.
up after the high stress moments. Now, there is, of course, going to be scenarios where that can't happen. And this is what you do if that is a moment where you have to bring it up. Here is some really big stuff that really affected me a lot and just changed the way I thought about communication in general. Like, it's just some amazing stuff that I read about and found out about. And a big thing is, sometimes this isn't possible either, but try and word your comment as a suggestion.
User joined your channel.
So if somebody is rotating, and this is back to PvP, if someone is rotating from mid to far and you just know that is a bad idea, there's no point there, you need to come home to help the fight over here, you should say, I'm going to use me example, hey Fred, instead of going far, do you think it'd be better if you came home because we need you here? And that might not be a good wording because sometimes you can't do that, but that would come off way better than, Fred, what the heck you doing? Go to home. Just try and just word it, hey Fred, I think it'd be better if you went home, or something like that as a comment usually. So try and word it as a comment best you can, but sometimes that's going to have to be really compressed down more so. And basically, definitely you want to try and keep it as a suggestion, but again, and I'm repeating myself, try, and you're going to eventually have to condense that down. Sometimes you're going to be in a scenario where you just don't have time, and you have to say, Fred, don't go far, come home. Like, it just has to be fast. Like, Fred, just come home, or something quicker. But if possible, definitely try and keep it as a comment. Now, here is another big thing that is almost always going to happen. The downside to any big group and teamwork effort is you're going to have arguments. It's kind of comes with how it goes. You're going to get in fights. Your team is going to have arguments with each other. There's going to be disagreements. So here is a big thing, and this is really powerful stuff in my opinion, that avoids stuff from
User
getting
joined your
taken out of
channel.
control. If you're in an argument, acknowledge the other person's suggestion. And this just shocked the heck out of me when I heard it. But you'll know how some people will get, and I've done the same thing, I'll get really angry and I'll say the same thing over and over and over again. And the reason people will repeat themselves so much when they're angry, and they'll be like, no, no, you don't understand. Like, here's an example. Say I rotated to far, and then another friend, we'll just use an arbitrary name, Bob. I don't know anybody on Guild Wars named Bob, I don't think, but I'm not referring to anybody here. I'm just using it as an example. And Bob says, Bob then rotates home. And I wanted Bob to come far. I'm like, Bob, what the heck are you doing? Why did you go home? Why did you go home? Home, there's no one there at home. There was only that one Necro, and you know you can't beat him because you're on the wrong class. And then Bob would be like, yeah, but, and I'd be like, no buts, Bob. What the heck are you thinking? Why are you going over there? And I get really mad and I start going off on him. Bob could say, and this is a very interesting part, Bob is going to then acknowledge, you're right, Fred. I know there was a Necro there, and I'm not good at fighting him. By him saying that, I'm going to stop interrupting him because in my frustration, I would think that he doesn't understand what I was saying. Oh, I think I cut out there. Bob wouldn't understand like I was thinking that Bob wouldn't understand what I was saying, so I kept saying it over and over again, even though Bob already heard me because I'm yelling at this point. Bob says simply, I know the Necros are far and I'm a bad counter to him. And I'm going to instantly be like, oh, well, he must have heard what I said, and that you'd be amazed how much that can calm the other person down. Like, incredible amounts. Like, I'm not joking here. This is something that I've tried and used and tested, and it definitely, I believe, it helps so much just to say, acknowledge what the other person says. Now, here is something that is really hard, and I'm not good at it, and I'm going to be quite honest, I'm bad at this. But you want to respond with something positive about the other person before you say what they did wrong. And this is a different scenario. If, like, say Fred on the other example didn't respond to Bob like that, and in an argument, you're fighting back and forth with this person, and Fred would instead say, Bob, at the end of a game, of course, this isn't going to be during a round because there's no time for this. He would say, Bob, you did really good in that fight against that bunker guard. You did really good there. But when you're fighting that Necro, that's not your counter, and I don't think that was a good idea. And you want to respond with something positive first. And now this is important. Make sure this is something positive that's real. Don't just say, Bob, you are an incredible person.
User
I think
joined
you're
your
amazing.
channel.
But you did horrible in that fight with the Necro. Like, make sure this is something real. A good example is your commander makes a mistake. Don't just say, so-and-so, I think you're a great commander, but you just did horrible that last fight. Give an example why you think that person is a great commander. Say, so-and-so,
joined your
I
channel.
think you are a great commander because you just did that incredible 20 versus 50 fight and stomped them. I think you're amazing for that, but this last fight didn't do so well. And this is in the middle of an argument. Say this commander just got done yelling at you, and this is the hard part. This commander just got done yelling at you, saying you were an idiot and you were a moron. You're the reason we wiped. You are the failure at this. Say that is when you want to respond like that, among other scenarios. And that is a big thing to respond like that. And it's really hard. I gotta be completely honest with you. It is definitely very tricky to respond with that type of response, because at the same time, this is something that's going to lower the fight, and doesn't mean that you're acknowledging that person as being right. Say Bob then turns around in PvP and says to me, no, Fred, I think I was good to go this way. Bob's not acknowledging that I'm right when he says, Fred, I think you're really good at DDLE, because I do DDLE in PvP. because, and Bob would say, Fred, I think you're really good DDLA and PvP because you really are good at rotating your skills, or just something that's real. And Bob's not acknowledging that I'm right. But you'd be amazed by starting off with that, how you will catch people off guard. Because you just got this one person just got done yelling at you. Now you're coming back with your comeback, and boom, you hit them with a compliment. Just boom. They will always, almost always be caught off guard so much that they will just stop in their tracks. Just boom, halt. Just like stop right there. It will just cut down the intensity of the moment. It'll cut down on the drama. It'll cut down on
User joined your
all
channel.
the high anxiety fight and argument, the intensity of the moment. It will just be stopped right there. And it won't get rid of it all, but it helps so much. Like these key things here just help incredibly good amount. Like you can avoid so many explosions of a fight. But again, this is something that I'm still working with, because I gotta tell you, like 9 times out of 10, I'm still probably gonna not do that, and I'm gonna come back. No, you're wrong. You're the one who's the problem. You're the idiot. You're the moron. Come back like that instead of being like positive comment first, then come back. You know what? Say someone just says you're the idiot. You're the moron. You're the reason we lost, and then you come back and saying, I know you're frustrated that we lost because you think that I went here. I think you're a great commander because of that last fight, but I don't agree with you that I'm the cause that we lost. That is a good way you could turn around that. But it is hard. It is really, really hard, I gotta tell you. But it's something that I'm trying to work towards, because in the end, it almost always makes things better. You get your point across, they get their point across, and it is in a much more relaxed way. And again, this comes down to just talking to people, getting the disputes sorted out, and coming into the end with working together, with focusing on improving, because that's what everybody's there to do. Everybody's constantly giving criticism that's constructive, and that's really, really good. I love constructive criticism, but make sure that this criticism stay constructive. And I know I'm perfect culprit of giving destructive criticism. That's definitely not something you want to send out, especially in a team play, because if you're destroying some of your members down and giving destructive criticism, it just doesn't help. Like your whole team's getting shot to pieces. Like if you're destroying someone's morale and shooting them down and giving them only destructive, it's hurting the whole team in general. So just make sure try and keep stuff constructive criticism, to criticize somebody only to help make them better. That's basically what I'm kind of going for. And really, in the end, it's all about focusing. This has just been stuff on how to respond and how to talk in those situations. But in the end, it's still always about focusing on learning, not winning. If you go into each fight with the focus and the mindset of, I'm here to learn, you are almost always going to come out a winner. Now, here's a big thing. Some people have said and believe, and I can kind of get their perspective on this, is that if you're not coming in there with, we have got to win, we are going to win, we have to win, that you're not going to bring your A game if you're focusing through, we're just here to learn. So whether we win or lose, who cares? We're just here to learn. And some people feel that that means you're not going to be bringing your A game. You're going to most likely lose more because you're not bringing your all. Well, here's the big thing. If you come into a game or a fight and you have one hand, I'm sorry, I think I might have cut out there. If you come into a game or a fight and you have one hand tied behind your back and you're using the other hand for the keyboard and you're not even using your mouse, and you lose, you're not bringing your all into that game. How much could you really learn? I think I cut out again there. It's being very odd. I don't know. It's wired. I got. But anyway, if you go into a game and you have one hand tied behind your back, and all of a sudden you lose the game, of course, because you're putting only half yourself in there. If you do that and you lose, what did you have to learn, really? I mean, you didn't put yourself against anything. I mean, you fight the team. Say you fight the absurd with one hand tied behind your back and you lose, and you do the same fight against another team you know is horrible. Like, you're going to lose either way. So you literally brought nothing to the table whatsoever. So if you're there to learn, and you don't give it your all, you're not going to learn. So the only way that you can go into a fight and learn the absolute most you can and get the most out of that scenario is when you bring your A game. Because if you go up and in PvP fight the absurd and your team only gives 50%, then you didn't learn. The absurd's going to kill you right off the bat before you expose your weakness by trying your best. If you go into that game and you give it 100% and do everything like you normally do when you're putting everything you got, then that is the exact type scenario where you can pull out the biggest mistakes that your team does normally before. I'm getting all botched up, but that's when you show your real true colors when you're trying the hardest, and then you can learn from your weaknesses. That's the big thing. But basically, that's what I'm getting at. Is if you don't give it your all, then you're not going to learn as much. So my counter to that, of believing that if you're not there to just win, you're not going to learn as much, is that if you're there to learn, you're going to give it even more. Because if you focus on the learning aspect, then you're always going to want to bring your A game. And that's the big thing, is to just kind of remind your team and stuff as guys, we're here to, at least in my opinion, guys, we're here to learn, and we're only going to learn if we give it our all. We're only going to learn when we have a clear head and we're focusing every single thing we have. And basically, what I'd like to end with on this, and I've gone on for about 20 minutes, half an hour, a little bit longer than I was planning on going, but thank you guys so much for hanging with me on all this whole thing. Me just rambling on. But I'm going to end with...
Wait, man, wait.
Oh,
you
yep.
didn't have to get through all this. I know I suck, so I just blame you. It makes me feel better, and everything's good, man.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word.
I'm just kidding, man. I had to put some levity in. I think levity in tense situations in
World
after the fight makes a big difference in the whole demeanor of everybody.
That is the truth. That is very true. Bringing some levity there, bringing some humor into it can help so much, and that's been proven time and time again. That is a very good point, Kentucky. But what I'd like to end with on this is that
user joined your
if
channel.
You look up the definition of loser on the wiki or anywhere, there's tons of different versions of it. But if you look up all those different versions, there's one thing they have in common. And what they all have in common is that the winner gets something and the loser doesn't. The loser is always the person that gets nothing. The loser is the person who gets the short end of the straw and doesn't get anything out of the big champion pot of goodies that's being given out. So if you go into any match, any World v World game, any fight, any PvP round, any football game, basketball game, you name it, anything competitive like that, and you go in focused on knowing and making sure you're going to keep track of and focus everything on bringing your A game to that match and keeping track of are you learning or not. Going in solely focused on I'm here to learn, I'm here to improve. So next game I can do better, and the game after that I can do even better and better, and you're going up those steps. Every game is a step closer to that champion goal. If you go in every game and you gain knowledge and you get something and you get the learning and the knowledge each game you do, then are you really a loser?
Joined your channel.
Even under definition of loser, are you one? Because if every game you're getting something, are you really a loser? That's the big thing. That's what I'm going to end with. Okay, at this point then, any questions on any of the topics?
User joined your channel.
Sorry if I did go on a little bit long. But, yeah, any topics on... Let's see, any topics on...
Actually, Fred, I do have something to add there.
Yep, absolutely.
I do believe towards the middle there, you were talking about how to not beat people up or not to get negative on people, especially in a leadership position. I do believe that commanders hold that high. They got to hold that high level of leadership responsibility and attitude. Whereas, like, if a leader, if it's tagged up or a guild leader or someone that people look up to, once a leader allows themselves to be negative or be jaded or to be, it allows the followership to also be negative.
Yep.
You
That's a
know,
very good point.
for
User
leaders to
joined
be
your channel.
leaders, part of it is you kind of have to keep a stiff upper lip and look at the positive and fight and combat the negative energy, which is
Yep.
it can be a
Yep. Very
difficult thing to
true.
do, but it comes as part of leadership responsibility.
Yep. Absolutely. That is a very good point. The leader and the leadership sets the tone for whatever's going on. The person tagged up sets the tone for the TeamSpeak channel and the morale of the most of the party. That is a very good point there. Yeah, thank you for that input. Yeah, it's definitely is a big thing, is to set the tone. And then that can come into, as the leadership even, responding to negative comments. Like, I don't know if this happens too many times, but say you're commanding and someone in the channel just like, you idiot, what the heck were you doing putting us in a choke like that? You're such a moron. Like, why the heck did you do that? And as the commander to come back and, I understand you're frustrated that we died there. Acknowledge why he's mad right off the bat. I understand why you're frustrated while we died there. I would prefer if you would not talk in
User joined your
like a
channel.
tone like that, however you'd like to word that, but just basically acknowledge that person's reasons why he's frustrated at you. Let him know that. And then even that hard part of saying, if you really know who
User
this
left
guy is
your
and he's been
channel.
doing a lot, say,
User
and I
joined
think
your
you've done a
channel.
really good job of being guardian. You pop stab one on engage consistently at the perfect time. Even then, that's a hard thing to do, but saying that can really turn it around. And then come around and say, or depending on the scenario, come around and say, I don't agree with you. I think the reason we lost was this, though I understand why you would think it's that way. Or come around and be like, depending on how it went, you might even believe he's right and be like, I know, man,
User
I should have
joined your
done this.
channel.
Thank you for the input. I'm going to try and do that better next time. And at the same time, be like, I'd really rather if you
User
didn't call
joined
me an
your
idiot
channel.
or a moron or anything like that.
Yeah.
Let's try and keep it nicer.
User
The
joined your
ability,
channel.
the ability to like keep your head while all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you.
Yep,
That-
absolutely.
That's the skill. Right?
That it takes work, and that is absolutely, like I said, it's a skill. And I'm not saying that I'm expert at any of this stuff here, because I've been frustrated with people and going off back at people why I've been tagged up who've said that, and just I did not follow through the series of stuff. So this is stuff that towards the bottom of this list specifically, like how to respond, like especially responding to somebody who's just called you an idiot and a moron and a whole bunch of other stuff, probably way even worse, and respond to that person with a compliment is like really good. If you can do that, like, just to put this in perspective, if you can do that, you're getting really good at this. I mean, you thumbs up to you. Like, you deserve a big pat on the back because you are really getting this stuff. This is like legendary tier when it comes into communication, like communication and scenarios and leadership stuff. Like, this is big top of the line stuff. So if you can do that, big thumbs up to you. But
And
just
to be, I also add,
yep.
to be fair, ideally, it never gets to that point.
Yep.
Ideally, you're proactive with your leadership and you're proactive with explaining why we're doing things, or this is going to be risky, guys. I think we have a chance at doing this. This might fail. Don't blow up at me. You
Yep.
try to be
Yep.
proactive with what you're doing, and maybe you can nip some of those complaints in the bud before they even raise up.
Yep, yeah, that's a very good point. Let your team know, like, this
User
is
left
something
your
risky we're
channel.
doing. We may wipe, but come on, guys, let's try it. Let's give it a roll. This is learning. We can do this, and that is a very good point. Is get that figured out before it even erupts to that point. That's a very good point there. And it's basically, yeah, those are the series and steps. I am going to copy and paste my lists into chat, just so you guys can see what I've been reading off of as my jump point, just so you guys
Do you
can...
do that? Is this part of like your job or something? Where did you come across all this stuff?
Well, it's definitely not part of my job. I got all this information
User
from
joined
books that
your
I've
channel.
read. I've gotten this information from people that I've talked to. Like, basically, I'm a person who has struggles with worry and anxiety. So it got to the point where it was interfering with my life. So I really had to start pushing to get this under control, these worries and anxieties. So I started reading books. I started watching videos, anything I get my hands on about handling anxiety and worry. And eventually, that was very helpful. But eventually, I went to counseling just for that extra boost. And through him, for talking to my counselor, I've been able to really grow what I knew about the whole situation. And taking what I know for books and running by this stuff by my counselor and just talking back and forth with him, and just I've been going for about a year now, and just running all this stuff together comes together to this big piece of what I have basically here. That's how all this stuff kind of comes to play. This is getting a little bit more in depth, but basically there's kind of like the story where I've gotten all this information. And don't get me wrong either. This isn't the only set of stuff. There's way more in-depth stuff out there that goes even further into this that I don't even probably know about. So it can get even more than this. Definitely can get way bigger. But yeah, thank you for that question. That was a good thing to ask, so I could give
User
a
joined your channel.
good example of the background where this information's coming from. I cannot get this list to paste. There you guys are. It's very
User
long,
joined your channel.
or it's broken down, and my numbering system's a little bit kind of wonky. Because I originally went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then parts that I missed, I just slipped them in by
User
calling the
left your
top
channel.
point 0.5, and then 1, 2, 3, 3.5, 4, etc. But yep, there you go.
Thanks, Fred.
User
Yeah,
left your
and
channel.
thank you. I'm sorry, I do not. I'm so
Don't
bad
worry
with
about it.
names.
Just
How
it's
do I
all good.
pronounce your name?
Everyone who's here. Me personally, I'm Alacius D.
Oh, Alacius. Okay. Well, thank you, Alacius, for those the inputs and the comments and the questions. I really appreciate that. I really love that input. And everybody else who asked questions too, Kantiki and I can't remember the names of everybody else. Sorry if I missed you. But everybody who added comments and questions to this, thank you so much for that. I love the kind of ongoing kind of back and forth with this. It's really good.
Good damn, 41 people. Nice job, Fred.
Oh my gosh, is that how many we have in here?
BGBL has the
User
Oasis
joined
event
your
up.
channel.
If y'all want to come, if you're gonna get 20 from the Garrison, if you want to come do Oasis, there's some
Yeah,
YB
dang.
to kill in here.
It resets
Yeah, dang,
in
there
10
you go.
minutes.
Oh, 10
Sweet.
minutes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, unless you're
Need a
doing it
reason
for
not to
your
kill
User
children.
left
YB?
your channel.
I did say kill YB. Here they are. Yep.
Oh yeah. And one last thing. Sorry, it keeps going one more thing, but the last thing to end with is, again, this is has all been recorded. I'm going to publish a link on the BG forums right where I published the link to announcing this this small workshop, and it's actually been going on a little longer than I thought it would. But it's all going to be recorded. I'm going to put the link there. It's going to be on YouTube. So if you have friends that wanted to hear this but weren't able to make it or anything like that, just feel free to spread the word about that link and pass it on. And thank you guys so much. This has gone so much bigger than I originally thought it was going to be. Thank you guys all for attending. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, thank you guys all for coming. This is
And thanks,
been
Bob,
crazy.
too. Bob did a
User
good job.
disconnected from your channel.
Bob's
User
a
joined
real
your
team
channel.
player.
Good job, Bob. He was a great one to have here.
All right, and everybody have a good reset.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody have an
User
awesome
disconnected
reset.
from your channel.
Thanks for all the damage, Fred.
Joe.